Calling to order the meeting of the Anchorage School Board. Today is Monday, April 16th, 2018. All board members are present, including our Student Advisory Board member. Would you please stand? And Kathleen, would you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. And our safety minute, Mr. Holleman. In 1 second, I'm going to do the intro. I wanted to give you a heads up so you could be ready. Okay. In line with our Destination 2020 goal concerning safety and security, we share the following information. Restrooms are located at the far end of the hall directly across the atrium. An automated electronic defibrillator, an AED, is located across the hall in a white box, and a first aid kit is mounted to the wall by the second exit. We do not conduct evacuation drills during our meetings, so if an alarm sounds or an alert is announced, this is the real thing. Please begin to take safe action immediately. In the event we have to evacuate the building, there are 4 exit doors located on your right and all have a lit exit sign over them. Once you enter the atrium, proceed quickly along the safest route to a door leading out of the building. If you do not have a vehicle here or it's unsafe to enter your vehicle and you need a place to wait, we have designated the parking lot next to the gas station as our rally point. If you see something that is dangerous, we encourage you to speak up and clearly alert the room of the danger you see, and we encourage everyone to quickly begin to take safe action. Information will be provided throughout the event as available, so everyone can best decide the safest action to take given the current situation. And our monthly topic, Mr. Holleman.
April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and I want to emphasize it's awareness, it's not distracted driving month. April's warmer weather means more Alaskans are outside and schools will let out in a little over a month. Pedestrian and bikes will be sharing the roads and crosswalks. Distracted driving leads to 100% preventable number of accidents every year. Some of the biggest culprits are texting, emails and phone calls, eating and drinking, and any other activity that involves multitasking while driving. Just 1 second of your attention is all it takes to change a life forever. So when you're behind the wheel, please just drive. As always, for more information, you can go to nsc.org, National Safety
Council.
NSC, if I can.
Safety Council, I believe.
NationalSafetyCouncil.org. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And for our Koyana, Elisa.
Koyana, a Central Yupik word for thank you, is also the name of our site-based award of appreciation. Awards can be given to any employee or volunteer in recognition of achievement, service, or dedication. Koyanas can be viewed or submitted by filling out an online Koyana form through the ASD website. 1 Koyana will be randomly selected from the website to be highlighted at bi-monthly board meetings. Tonight, Koyana to Michelle Anderson, Brian Yem, Tamara Higgins, Jeff Keller, Brett Roth, Natalia Sears, and Peter Mandel at Diamond High School. I just wanted to send a note of thanks to my son's teachers and counselor. We have had some very stressful times over the past few months and had to leave the state, causing my son to miss school. I'm very grateful to all of his teachers and his counselor that helped him to stay on track with his schoolwork. Thank you all so much for truly caring about my son and allowing him to focus on what he needed to while he was gone. Sincerely, a very appreciative Diamond High School parent.
Thank you very much. And our opening statement from Ms. Spencer.
We want to welcome you to our board meeting and thank you for attending and supporting the work of the Anchorage School District and this board. The board thanks students, parents, teachers, staff, school business partners, and the entire community for your investment in our district with your time, your talent, and your tax dollars. As partners, we will respect your time and make this meeting as effective and efficient as possible. If you aren't able to be physically present for the entire meeting, you may choose to tune into the Municipality of Anchorage's Channel 9 or YouTube to watch the live stream. Recordings of meetings are also available through the agenda and board docs and are closed captioned in compliance with Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. The primary purpose of the regular business meeting of the Anchorage School Board is to recognize excellence, receive reports, approve policies and contracts, as well as decide on the rules and processes followed by the board to facilitate orderly decision-making. The role is to govern, not to solve management issues. My name is Kaylee Spencer, and I'm the student representative to the board. I was elected to serve through the ASD Student Advisory Board. Although my votes are only advisory, I offer a student voice to this body.
Thank you very much. I'll now entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
I move to approve agenda.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any dissension? Our agenda is approved. We now have a special awards and recognition. I'd like to call forth our Commissioner of Education, Michael Johnson, as well as Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, we would like to call Eagle River High School teacher forward, Valerie Ballarud. And next to me, of course, is our board president, and then Dr. Michael Johnson, the Commissioner of Education for the state of Alaska. And I'd also like to invite up Martin Lang, the principal of Eagle River High School, to join in the celebration. And family members can come forward too if you'd like. So come on. I know that this is a super supportive family and celebration together is warranted. So our very own Kaylee is part of this winning family, if you will, and a student at Eagle River High School. And we're announcing, and actually the assistant principal's here too. Come on forward. Don't want to leave anyone out. So Valley was awarded earlier this year the Milk and Educator Award. And for those of us in education in this profession, it is the most coveted award an educator could receive. Many awards come to us and we compete for them, we apply for them, we're nominated for them. This award is absolutely secretive. It's secretive to the district, it's secretive to the commissioner. There is an outside group that does their research on everything you could possibly do and find out about the educator. And it's a surprise award, and it's held tight, and the information is embargoed, if you will, until the very last minute. And I was able to participate in the celebration at Eagle River High School. And Dr. Johnson's here to speak about that award, who is also a former winner. We don't have very many, but two of them right on the same stage, if you will, to talk about the award. And I couldn't think of another teacher that should receive this high honor as we have in Valerie at Eagle River High School. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here and celebrate with you again. It's an honor for a commissioner to stand next to great teachers, and it's an honor to be given the opportunity by a great teacher to recognize all great teachers and what they mean in the lives of our students. I knew it was one of the highlights of my time as commissioner, the assembly we had at Eagle River High School when we gave the award. And it wasn't because necessarily Val's recognition and her reaction to the announcement. It was all the students, because that validated that she deserved this award. When her name was announced, it was absolutely unbelievable, the students' reaction and their celebration of their teacher. They were so happy for her. It was a wonderful day, and I appreciate the opportunity to participate. So congratulations. We're all honored by you and your teaching. Thank you.
All right, would you like to say a few words? And we know Kaylee, we always ask her to speak. So, and what I was able to watch is that I knew what was happening, and all three of you actually were in attendance at the assembly, and I was watching their whereabouts at all times because I didn't know it was about them. And Kaylee's reaction was just as priceless as yours. It was really terrific.
I don't have any prepared remarks here, although I will be giving some public testimony here in a few minutes. I just want to say a brief thank you. Thank you to the Commissioner, and thank you, Dr. Bishop, for being here, the school board, everyone who's here, especially all my support crew from Eagle River. If you're a teacher or staff member at Eagle River High School, will you stand up real quickly so that we can acknowledge you as well? With the most amazing people in the district, and I'm so glad that my children go to Eagle River High School. I'm so proud of what the program has grown right there. If you have seen any of the video footage, you know that my reaction was genuine, and it was entirely shock. I do also want to make sure before I hand over the microphone that I thank my mother. She is the only one following every social media aspect to come out of this, and she has acknowledged where I have thanked her and where I have not. So she has been instrumental. She watched my children while I went through my master's program, so thank you, Mom. I love you. You want to say anything else?
Also, Grandma made some great magnets of my mom's reaction, which we have on the fridge now. So those are fantastic, really priceless. I just want to say how proud I am of not only my mom, but my school. I think we have created a great learning environment. I know I've enjoyed all of my time there. I look forward to celebrating my senior year there next year, so I'm super excited for that. Yeah.
Would your husband like to say anything as that university teacher?
I'm good. All right. Everybody else down there?
Well, may we take a picture? And then today was really about this this beautiful obelisk. Yeah. So for you to have forever, and put it wherever you'd like. But it also her work with $25,000, so that was pretty cool too. And a trip to Washington D.C. for which you participated. So it was terrific.
Thank you. Okay, we will now begin our public testimony on non-agenda and non-action items. The board welcomes public comments on all items, both action and non-action, as well as in general. We value public comment as it both ensures that we remain aware of public thoughts, ideas, and concerns, and it informs our decision-making process. We have a table front and center with 2 seats and a microphones at each available for testimony when I call your name. You have 3 minutes to testify, and you may begin speaking when the timer appears on the screen to your left and begins the countdown. When the timer reaches 0, please finish your sentence. Additionally, it is not our practice that board members answer questions or engage in discussions with members of the public. This is your time to speak and our time to listen. The board will consider all information shared by the public, and when deemed necessary, issues raised in testimony will be referred to the administration for follow-up. So I'm going to call the first 2 speakers up, and you can choose which seat to go to, and we'll start with Rod Mercado and Don Roth. And if you could pull the mic right up by your, yes, perfect, thank you very much.
Thank you.
You may begin.
I have an accident, so I had her injury a long time ago, so I will have my paper and to make sure that I touch all the items that I want to address here. Thank you for this opportunity. As a disabled parent, I always like to advocate for my kids' education. As a Hispanic and minority, I witness how good the education is here in Alaska. I was born in Puerto Rico. I'm sorry, I was born in New York, grew up in Puerto Rico, and lived almost 20 years in the state of Florida. So my kids study over there, and also here in Alaska. And I can assure that ASD, that you are doing the right thing and you're going in the right direction, providing all of us the tools as partners to educate our kids. I really believe that it's not only it's not the responsibility of the Department of Education, it's also our responsibility as parents to help our kids to succeed. Today I'm advocating for the ELL tutoring program. I think that there are kids that come to the States and don't speak the language, and I think that the tutors can build up a good relationship with the students, and they identify themselves with the tutors. And when I heard that there could be a change in the program, I decided to come forward. When I think that a good program like this is jeopardized, I couldn't stay quiet, and I need to express my concern as a good partner. The ELA program helps disadvantaged kids, provide them the tools that every Student Success Act commits to. That is the equal opportunity for all students. If this program is either terminated or maybe changed, it may impact the kids in a negative way for the reasons that I already mentioned. I think that we, as partners, we can achieve the SSA, whatever they stipulate, which is preparing all students, regardless of race, income, disability, ethnicity, or proficiency in English, for a successful college experience and fulfilling career. So I will appreciate if you guys take that in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'd like to now call Lewis Gill.
He's not here.
Okay. The next person would be Brewster Jameson. And Ms. Roth, am I saying your name correctly?
Roth, yes.
Roth, thank you. You may begin.
I just want to thank you guys. You do an awesome job. But my only concern is this new time change that is being considered. As a single parent, I do not have the extra income for daycare, for after-school programs. My school doesn't offer after-school programs, so now I'm in more expense for daycare, and then it wouldn't be quality family time. Time I get home, it's dinner, bath, check homework, bed. He's going to have to go to bed 2 hours early, or earlier to get up 2 hours early to go to bed to get to school by 7:30. For an elementary child, I just don't think that's going to work in the winter. It's dark, it's cold, it's 8:30. We at least have a little bit of light out there that people driving down the road can see children running out in front of them. I just think this is. And I understand you want to give the high schoolers extra sleep time, but if you're going to do that, they know, and they're going to stay up 2 hours later before they go to bed to get up to go to school by 9. I just don't agree with it, and I just wanted to voice my opinion because that survey thing was for the researcher. It wasn't to voice our opinions, and so I just wanted to voice my opinion. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'd like to call up Dave Sivankara. Am I close? And Mr. Jameson, you may begin.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you all for your service. I'm a big fan of our public schools. For the most part, we do a great job. Sometimes we make a mistake. I'd like to talk about that tonight. Classroom instruction time is limited, it is precious, and it is very valuable. It needs to be spent wisely. The cost of instruction time is huge. The district's budget this year is $816,689,000. Theoretically, every penny of that budget is directly or indirectly, it goes to support classroom instruction. Teachers teaching kids is the most important output of our school district. For 7th and 8th grade, every day of instruction costs $738,000, every hour costs $123,000, and every minute costs over $2,000. This year, the district decided to take middle school instruction time away from math, away from science, away from English, and away from social studies. The district decided to give this time instead to a program known as advisory. This was a very big mistake. In my submitted piece, which I sent you all over the weekend, I estimated that it robs about $20 million worth of instruction time from English, math, science, and social studies. So, is advisory worth it? In my opinion, it's not. Advisory at its core is a social emotional learning program called Lion's Quest. According to its published resource guide, it covers such topics as #success, quote, exploring emotions, my anger buttons, put a stop to bullying, ! Reflections of success, and we can be healthy and drug-free, another ! That's just to name a few. I have nothing against the idea of social emotional learning. I'm convinced of its value, particularly in preschool and kindergarten, when it has the greatest impact. However, I don't think we should devote close to 20% of our middle school budget at a cost of around $20 million on these topics, especially since doing so comes at the expense of core academic instruction. I'm told that advisory is in the process of morphing, maybe shrinking, given the objections the district has received from teaching staff and some parents. I saw this metamorphosis myself just last night when my 8th grader presented us with a form, my wife and I, a form called self-directed study. This is where the students decide what they want to learn and then teach it to themselves. Her chosen topic was card games. So instead of teachers teaching kids math, science, English, and social studies, the district thinks that this time would be better spent by my 8th grader teaching herself how to play crazy eights. Crazy indeed. The district needs to recognize this mistake. You need to make sure that precious instruction time is spent wisely. Give back the instruction time you have stolen from the core curriculum. Give it back to the teachers so that they can do what they know how to do. Let them do what we believe and they believe they have a responsibility to do. Teach our kids academic subjects. Advisory was a mistake. Get rid of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'd like to call up Lynetta Marcellus to the second seat. And please tell me how to say your name.
Van Cara.
Van Cara. The C is silent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just get us in the front of the school class, I think. Anyway, I am a parent at Family Partnership, and coming from the military, it's common practice that we want to get the bottom line up front. So I'm going to do that so you guys understand what we're here. The Family Partnership Board, in conjunction with the Academic Committee, submitted a request to authorize Family Partnership students the ability to receive weighted grades for core and AP similar university classes through a process that does not impact other ASD schools, and it doesn't cost ASD anything. We are basically asking for swift support and approval on this process. So real quickly, the historical purpose of all AP classes using a 5.0 GPA scale is an effort to present a more accurate picture of academic rigor and stress on the student's coursework, simply allowing additional points for classes more challenging than basic ones. Harvard University administration officers ask themselves when reviewing potential candidates, has the student been stretching themselves? Ma'am, you have been quoted as saying the single most important focus is improving student achievement and being fair to our students. That each school in ASD is on the same team, and to bring it closer to home, the current request to authorize Family Partnership charter school students the ability to receive weighted grades is a good thing. It does promote student achievement and excellence. It is fair to our students, and it's fair to ASD. So why is it important for FPCS students? For one, permission to grant a request will be a huge incentive for our students taking challenging academic courses and stretching themselves. Without permission, our FPC students are not on the same playing field as other ASD counterparts, competing for scholarships, selective colleges, academies, etc. Under the current restrictions, students stretching themselves are penalized in class by receiving a B at the UAA course. Maybe taking a 200 level math class will knock him out of being a valedictorian, or even worse, being ineligible for a UA scholarship because he's not in the top 10% of his class. Current procedures discourages, it doesn't encourage our students to achieve academic excellence and rigor. FPC wants to retain as many students under the ASD umbrella. I think that's the purpose that I've read in one of your minutes. It is very likely that students will leave Family Partnership, an ASD school, and they will move to another homeschool group that does do the 5.0 graded scale. For example, Cyberlinks, Raven, and there are others in our ASD community. So quick wrap up. We don't want to spend any more ASD money. We don't want to have you do any more effort. We simply want to be fair to our students, improve student achievement by rewarding our students with the same privileges at other ASD schools by giving them weighted grades for university classes that are far more challenging than AP coursework. It is the right thing to do for our students. Please
Thank
grant
you
that.
very much for your testimony. I'd like to call up George Vankara and Lynetta, you may begin.
Good evening, board members. My name is Lynetta Marcellus, and I'm a teacher and a parent at FPCS. I'm here to represent about 60% of my high school students who have chosen to take university classes. And I'm here to represent my own child, who will have 15 UAA credits by the end of this spring, her sophomore year. The purpose of my testimony is just to ask the district to allow Family Partnership School the option to weight certain UAA classes. A large number of FPCS students are taking coursework at UAA or APU that's equivalent to or greater in concepts covered than that of the AP courses at the neighborhood school. But they're not receiving the same benefit that other students are in the neighborhood schools with a weighted GPA. Many of the AP courses at the neighborhood schools are equivalent to about 100 level university courses, but our students are taking 200 and 300 level university courses, which exceeds the rigor of a normal AP course. It's our goal to raise the bar by encouraging our students to go beyond that of the current AP courses available at the local high schools. I'm a secondary certified math teacher with experience teaching calculus. A student who takes Calculus 1 at UAA does not currently get their grade weighted, yet a student at a neighborhood school who takes Calculus 1, which we call Calculus AB, does receive a weighted grade. Calculus 1 at UAA covers the same material in a semester that a Calculus AB course takes an entire year to cover. Yet the Calculus AB course gets higher recognition with a weighted grade than Calculus 1 does by not being weighted. In fact, if a student takes the AP Calculus exam at the end of their class through the College Board and passes, they receive 3 credits for Calculus 1 in college. So this clearly shows that the Calculus 1 course our students are taking in the university level is the same content of a Calculus AB course. So I request that the board allow FPCS to give weight to certain college courses that are equivalent to or greater in course content of the AP courses at the neighborhood schools. It's not our intent to affect the current practices or processes at the neighborhood schools. We have submitted a proposal to secondary which clearly outlines a process that allows our students to get weighted grades while not interfering with the neighborhood practices. We would hold off weighing the courses until the summer after their junior year, going into their senior year. Make no mistake, GPA does matter. As our students compete with other students in this district, state, and nation, they're competing with students with weighted grades for scholarships and admittance into colleges, and therefore they're at a great disadvantage. So lastly, my hope is that we're sending our students the right message, that when they push themselves to excel in academics, we reward them, not discourage them.
Thank you for your testimony. I'd like to call up Sarah Nicholas.
Oh, George and I switched
I was
up.
going to say,
George's going to go last.
you guys are trying to throw me a curveball here. Okay. Go ahead, Sarah.
All right. Well, my name is Sarah Nicholas, and I am a former Family Partnership student. I graduated in 2013, and I was actually one of the first Family Partnership students to take college classes while I was in high school. I was able to complete about over 60 credits, actually, while I was in high school, and had over half of my bachelor degree completed before I graduated. However, out of those 60 credits, I received 1 B in an anatomy and physiology class that unfortunately translated to my transcript somewhat poorly. I lost my valedictorian slot. I was the last person chosen for the UA Scholars Award, and I received no recognition on my transcript for the initiative and the hard work that I had put into completing this college degree while I was still in high school. I am here to talk like the other people before me on weighting our GPA for the students that would like to take college coursework while they are still in high school. I was unable, although I had taken more college courses than the average high school student in our state, I was unable to compete with an AP student who had taken 1 class and was therefore graded on a 5.0 scale. This is unfair to our students that are highly motivated and have long-term goals that they're working hard to complete. I really believe that allowing college courses to be weighted equally can do a couple of really great things for our kids. One, it will increase motivation to both finish high school as well as finish your college degree. There's something about getting started early that really helps you want to finish and be completed, and I think that's a great thing to encourage. Additionally, I really think that it would increase Alaska college retention as well. I had 60 credits done, and I had gotten I got the UA scholarship and the Alaska Performance Scholarship. So I decided I'm going to stay here in Alaska and finish my degree. However, if I had not received my UA scholarship because of that 1B, it's highly likely that I would have gone out of state for somewhere that could have provided me with a little bit more support. And finally, I do think, like the people before me, that it's important that we are encouraging our highly motivated students with lots of potential to raise the bar and reach for higher standards. And I believe that allowing them to compete with other AP students for both the recognition of their coursework as well as scholarships is one way that we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. George.
Hello, my name is George Van Kara. I've been academically attending at FPCS for the entirety of my academic career. I played sports at Diamond High School as a junior and have currently 12 varsity letters there. At the end of this semester, I'll have completed 25.25 total credits for high school and 46 college credits to include this semester, which is American History, Physics, and Calculus. I currently have a 3.91 GPA. I've been graded through all those. I've gotten all A's except 2, and those were both college classes. I ranked 12th of 77 in my class, and I will not be chosen as valedictorian for that very reason. And I may not even be eligible for the UA scholarship. I have friends at Diamond High School who are taking Calculus 1, just as me, and getting AP credit. I and others are not getting the credit we deserve, and I would appreciate the board if you could please look over the proposal and act upon it quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I have Jacob here, and I'd like Valerie to please join him. Thank you.
I'm here to speak tonight not only as an educator, but more importantly as a father of 3 kids who love to learn and are excited about school, and they're camped out back there. My 2 oldest attend Chugiak Elementary. Although we've been really happy with their learning experience so far, we do have concerns about limited time to eat, time to move during PE and recess, as well as how much time they spend in front of the screen. But overall, they come home excited about the day and what they've learned from their teachers. My son is looking forward to singing at the next choir concert, and my daughter loves art. As a teacher at Eagle River High School, I'm very concerned about the form their secondary education may take when they're older. I serve on our school's leadership team, and since we've opened, I've been a part of monitoring our course offerings, student enrollment, and how budget cuts impact our overall program. The past 7 years have brought cuts to PE, world languages, science, social studies, fine arts, language arts, career tech, and counseling. We've eliminated our food prep program, drama, career resource, and piano. In response, we've increased class sizes and expanded online education, which, based on the research and my personal experience, I'm not terribly excited about. Teachers are spreading themselves even more thin as we try to cover all the additional things students and parents expect, such as homecoming, prom, WACO, and athletics, as well as the demands from the district and state, such as MTSS, capturing kids' hearts, and testing. We've eliminated classes and programs that have had a tremendous impact on students, and we're now in the position of losing more honors and AP courses. And what we can't quantify is the anxiety and decisions educators themselves are making based on the long term. Along with the budget, our current retirement plan factors greatly in whether a teacher remains in Alaska. I've been very proactive and responsible by contacting legislators, attending town hall and community council meetings. I've been to Juneau numerous times. I speak to my neighbors about the importance of public education and the impact budget cuts are having in our particular community. Most importantly, I try to lead by example, using my teaching in the classroom and the experiences my students have as leadership to take a more active role and visible role in advocating for our students. As a parent, I want to see you join me in fighting for my kid. I'm also asking the school board to consider these cuts when improving or continuing new initiatives that impact school schedules and a teacher's time in the classroom. Cost-saving efficiencies and retaining as much as we can must include increased trust and autonomy for individual teachers and school sites. One of the best teachers I know once said, "I can teach social studies in a barn with a chalkboard." And frankly, it's looking like it might come to that. As much as I value the things and programs my kids have at Shugiak Elementary, what I value most are the caring educators that they come home and tell me about. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Valerie.
Thank you again, school board members and everyone present, for taking a little bit of your time tonight to recognize me. I wanted to take a minute and share with you what my classroom will look like next year. When a sophomore child comes into my AP World History class next year, they're going to be one of 40-plus students and part of my approximate 190 student workload. After shaking hands and taking attendance, that means that each student is getting 1 minute and 6 seconds a day, or approximately 5.5 minutes per week as their share of my class time. As a parent, as a taxpayer, I find this an unacceptable return on my investment in my children, my school, and my community. I love my job. Until this year, I've been happy just to survive budget cuts. But I need teachers to make my department function. I'm also a parent concerned about my senior in an AP government class with 42 students, and my shy freshman who will get lost in the masses of an overcrowded world history class. I'm a community member who doesn't like what's happening to the state of education in Alaska. We all know what the future looks like for the uneducated citizen and improperly educated workforce. I genuinely care about my students. I know that the best way to motivate learning is through engagement, caring, and truly knowing them. I don't know if I can do that with 40-plus students in every class. Am I still delivering quality content, or am I checking diploma boxes? Am I still the teacher, or am I becoming crowd control? Because if I'm no longer a teacher, I need to find somewhere where I can be. I'm Tier 3. My husband is Tier 3. We have 3 children in Alaska's public school system and a baby in daycare. Alaska is our home, but we need to start being realistic and evaluate our situation. Our family is a microcosm of Alaska's Tier 3 teachers. My department, a microcosm of my school, and my school, a microcosm of education in ASD. I would remind the board that we are all in this together, teachers, staff, admin, union, and board. We need to approach state funding in a show of solidarity. We need to work together to find solutions that don't result in yearly staffing deductions and crowded classes. We need to stop accepting the notion that doing more with less is okay. What does that say about how we prioritize our future? Teaching is what I love. It's what I'm good at. Eagle River is one of the best performing schools in the state, and I'm proud to be part of that. I do not want to see that change. I also don't want to lose the ability to connect with students in a way that makes their time in my classroom meaningful and real. 40-plus students seems to me the opposite of the ideology behind capturing kids' hearts. In fact, I find it akin to hypocrisy. Please think of my classroom, think of the numbers, and think of my students when it comes time to discuss education and where the budget cuts are made. And I ask that you do the right thing for our future. The system isn't healthy, it's not sustainable, and it's not what our students deserve. Thank you so much for your time and for fighting with us to make Alaska education all that it can be.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And that concludes those who've signed up. Is there anyone else wishing to sign on speak on a non-action or non-agenda item? Seeing none, there will be another opportunity later on in the meeting if you do think of something you'd like to speak with us about. We will move to our reports, and we'll start with the superintendent update. Dr. Bishop.
Thank you, Madam President. There are 4 items just to update the board. We'll start the first. Did you need? Oh, did I?
We were just noticing we had meant to put the military report first. Would you mind if we put him
Please
up front?
do that. I think it's a
Colonel,
sheet today.
Oh, it's not Adele. He won't be able to. Are you going to give the report? Please.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh no.
I'd be happy to share what I have. I do know that Colonel Knight wanted to thank Mr. Roth and Mr. Bingham from Western Demographics for coming up and providing 2 opportunities on JBEAR last month for parents to give input on the school start time changes. So that was very beneficial, so they could ask some questions, hear the report and such. We do have a date. I know that Colonel Knight had mentioned a visit by students at Wonder Park and Mountain View Elementary Schools, and we are happy to report that that will be May 4th. It's a Friday, and we'll have at least 100, maybe 110 students. They're going to be given a tour of a C-17 aircraft, an F-22, and also have those pilots and crews speak to them about the importance of staying in school and regular attendance and how they got to where they were in those positions. They'll also get treated to a robotics demonstration by one of our security forces squadrons, so that will be very exciting. And also, if any board members are interested in attending, we'd be more than happy to have you join the tour. So that is May 4th.
Could you tell us the time, please?
At this point, we're looking at 10 a.m. to 2:30 p.m.
Great.
Just to give students a chance to get there and, of course, get back to the schools. So.
Thank you.
That is all I have.
Thank you very much for stepping in.
Thank you.
And, excuse me, Dr. Bishop, back on track.
All right. Well, I have very quick update, 4 items, and we'll start with Bettye. And the board may know that Bettye is a homeschool charter school that was established in 2015. And it's in its 3rd year of operation. And each of those years has been a struggle with establishing the student enrollment. And at the last, there's some major changes going on within the school. One is the present principal, Cheryl Huber, who was formerly principal of Whaley and SAVE, is moving on to have some opportunities overseas to be an educator. With that, coupled with the APC board changing over, they had discussions about the future of Bettye and what we can do. And presently, Bettye is a school that, after the count period, continues to accept families, especially from our schools where find our high schools that have been unsuccessful or not interested in their home high school or want to get credits. And so they've accepted students in after the count date and have grown that way. So last year, they began the year with 63 students. And then through just the networking throughout the district in support of high schools, specifically non-traditional high school students that want an alternative, many special education high schoolers, they've been able to incorporate them into successful programs. There's been a cooperation. Presently, there's 166 students there. The discussion with Daryl Vinsek, our charter expert, director, was just that how can they build a program but not have enrollment, not be secure about the enrollment, and understanding the opportunity that this particular school offers for families, especially of high school students. We mentioned them, we'll work with them. And so we've been talking for about over several months, and at the last meeting of the APC of Bettye, they voted to work with the district. In looking at that, because of the charter statutory requirements in regarding to funding, not the program itself, the academic program, but the funding, we would need they requested a board approval that the district, basically the funds are funneled into the operations of the district rather than separately to the charter. So the charter wants to work with the district. It would become a district correspondence school. And this action is being asked this evening because on the agenda, we'd like to be able to take some action, and the school requested that so that they could hire their principal. And the principal then would work with the community to build the program. The program is presently at the Presbyterian Church on West 10th Avenue. The school would remain there, build out. They have an elementary program, but primarily it's the secondary that they spoke to at the APC board, and look for a principal, and then from there decide this might be one of those programs that use the space in the school. It might be one of, it's basically a flexible, innovative program similar to, you heard of a charter school this evening, Family Partnerships, that's highly successful. We want to continue to keep the option open for Bettye, because we have students in there. And so we're requesting the board that we take action to be able to transfer that over to the district. Daryl's here to answer questions. The board, we would like, and we work with the board to turn into an academic advisory council so that APC board still has the academic structure that they would like to move the program forward so that they are involved, especially those, I think some board members are still the charter families, to still have some outlook and input into what Bettye looks like moving forward. But we'd like to build the program, offer opportunities to ASD families, and not have a school dissolved in our district. And if you had any questions, I'm not sure, we might have families here as well if there were questions when this comes up during action item. But it was a long deliberation, but again, we want to keep a school strong and continue it moving into the future.
There will be a public testimony opportunity as well as board discussion, and when we get to the action items.
So I wanted to provide you some background. The current staff is a half-time principal, one-time full-time teacher, 5 part-time teachers, a business manager, and administrative assistant. So it's a small, efficiently run program, but to grow, you know, we would want to support. And one of the significant issues is that they work with all kids. They really take in different kids that find struggles in the fall when the count period is, but they'll take them into their program in the spring as well.
Okay.
All right. Dave?
I was wondering on the subject of AP in college classes, do we have a uniform policy regarding that, or is that something that's from school to school?
Actually, we do, through the president to Member Donley, we do have a uniform policy. AP and IB, they're not guaranteed college credit. The kids have to test for them, so that is on a 5-point scale. College courses are on a regular 4-point scale because the child's already getting the college credit. Originally what had been involved was that APU would get a 5-point scale, but UAA and every other college wouldn't. And it's, we have many students, middle college is a whole college where they take all, and they're just getting college credit transcribed back. So they're, I believe it was different all over, and so it went to, I can have Mike do a report, but it was IB and AP courses were 5-point scale, and now, but college courses are 4-point scale.
So is there some legal limitation why, for the district's purposes, we couldn't have a different grading scale than for their college transcript purposes?
I mean, we could, that would be, it's just it's a big deal, actually, to do that, and then to go postmark the courses, things like that, because we have kids that are graduating that took them prior years. But would it be okay at this time to ask for some background? I know that Kathy Moffett and Mike Graham have worked with this issue.
Yeah, through the president to Member Donley, what the superintendent said is correct. While we have had AP and IB courses all along that received the weighted grade because of the rigor of the course they were taking. And by the way, those students are not guaranteed college credit. They do test, and if they get a 3, 4, or 5, it depends on the university or the college where they're going as to whether they may receive credit or bypass a class, that kind of thing. But we did have an agreement with APU for many years with the early honors program there, that we looked at some of their courses, not all their courses, but many of their courses were deemed to be, yeah, they were the rigorous equivalent of our AP courses, so they were receiving weighted grades. We started to get more and more students, though, were taking, as you heard tonight, college courses at UAA or other online college courses, and wanting those to be weighted. And then when AMCS, so that was already being explored, we were looking, and we decided we're going to have to look at all those college courses at UAA and see if they lined up and how those work. When AMCS came on, and we realized that every course pretty much that they were taking would be weighted grades, we do end up with concerns. You heard tonight about the scholarships. When you start messing with kids' GPAs, I can tell you that right now we already have, and every high school principal will tell you, we have parents that are coming and they are petitioning to have courses taken off their high school transcripts because they've been taking some AP courses. You heard tonight may have had all straight A's, but it's more of those pesky 4.0s that are pulling the GPA down. They want them gone. So we right now have this situation where you could have two students who've had equal all the way through. The senior year, one takes early dismissal, and they've had equal AP course. One takes early dismissal, one goes ahead and takes the full schedule, takes band and student government. The student who took early dismissal will have the higher GPA because this other student has two pesky 4.0s pulling them
Even
down.
if they're 4.0s. It's a mathematics game.
It becomes a mathematics game. If we will start having, if we opened up college courses, we'll have kids signing up for courses just to try and get those things up. It'll become a grade race. We also have the consistency or inconsistency with, if we allow one school to do that, like family partnership, and not another, we're going to have, as you heard, when scholarships are looking, APS, other kinds of things, it becomes a real mess. It already is in many of our schools. So when we made it consistent, we said the college courses, the reasoning for it was they're getting the credit. That's why they're taking this course. They can get college credit. The others are taking the AP, which are very rigorous classes also, and they would get the weight.
But there's no guarantee for college.
There is no
the
guarantee for
receiving
college
college
credit.
has to give college credit. So you can take dual enrollment and dual credit classes, but unless the receiving agency gives the credit, it's just a course. Threes on a test, if you receive a 3 on a college board, UAA will accept it, but University of Texas doesn't. You have to have a 4 or 5. So it really depends on the receiving university. There are thousands of students in this section, so it is consistent right now that your motivation for college courses is your college credit. If you're taking a high school course that is well above the rigor that's expected, you can get a 5-point, but you're not guaranteed college credit. And honestly, when you send it's for scholarships, but once colleges, because this game is played all over the United States, guess what colleges do? They strip them down. They strip them down. So you have to send for every child that we have on a 5-point scale, we have to also report a 4-point scale. They'll skip them, they'll strip them down because this is everywhere. This is not just a ASD centric, this is United States centric. And you could Google it and it'll be crazy.
Yeah, I first became aware of this because some of my nephews and nieces were making 4.4 and 4.5, and I said, how's that possible? But I'm also personally aware of it because 46 years ago, I petitioned the Anchorage School District and they let me take a college class in American government. And I didn't get an A in that class and it pulled my average down. And I remember the professor saying, I don't think any college student should be allowed to take my class. And so there was an inherent bias against me in that class. But it just seems like we ought to try to solve this problem. I would like to seek some sort of uniform solution that brings equity to it, because first of all, I think we should have a standard policy and not have a school-by-school policy. But there must be a way out of this box.
Madam, so actually what you asked for is what we have, so you want the standard, it is equitable in the fact of the way that people are reading the courses, but are you saying that you want college courses to have a 5-point scale?
I'm saying that we ought to have a way to either differentiate off, okay, this is a matter of first impression to me tonight, okay? So I'm not saying that any ideas, but the types of thoughts that I thought would be advantageous for us to explore is some way to differentiate the final GPA based on high school classes versus the college classes taken. So your GPA could be based on your high school classes rather than your college classes. That's one thought. Another thought might be to have some sort of review of the kind of core curriculum classes that students would generally take and have them pre-approved for a higher level of a grade. And so it's not, the classic joke of the underwater basket weaving class, but it's things that are really substantial. I mean, I was very impressed by the testimony tonight about some of the classes these students were taking there. It sounded very significant and deserving of additional credit. So you could go this way or you could go that way, but either way would probably bring more equity to the process.
Madam President, I mean, it's been around the table and up and down the block, and I would say you would need a department, someone's job full-time to review college courses. We had testimony, I'm just putting it out there. It is a big old sticky wicket, and we could get into it, but then just so you know, the prior classes are going to come up, future. So right now it is high school's high school. If you go for college, you are challenging yourself, but your outcome is that you're getting college credit. I think there were some other ways that were done, that there were high school credit or 5.0 scales for college, this college or that college, but then we started treating it differently, and it was basically the secondary instruction as well as curriculum were overwhelmed with petitions to have courses. Well, once you allow for a child at a school to say, oh, this course works, every other parent whose kid moved down on a scale is coming to say, wait a minute, we even have 8th graders who take high school courses and they want to be advanced and they want that high school credit, but a freshman level English is a 4-point scale. By the time they get to juniors and they're in AP English, they realize, wait, I can get higher GPA, I can be on a 5-point scale. And mathematically, you want fewer courses on a 5-point scale. So they'll petition to take their 8th grade off, and they wait to the 11th hour. And so the scholarship they talked about tonight, I'm just telling you all the stuff. So the scholarship they talked about tonight, even with UAA, is based on your ranking your junior year and how many students you have enrolled. And then once you change that and you say, wait a minute, I'm not up there, it's my senior year, I want that taken off, and then all those things flip. So one lever pulls about 100 different other levers. That's why we kept it simple as APIB courses that we teach. We know 5-point scale, but you don't get college credit, it's not a guarantee. Courses that are taken outside of us at college, we'll transcribe those credits back and give you credit so you don't have to do that again. But those are going to be, that's a 4-point scale, because we just couldn't review every course that people took us. And we had somebody talk about online courses. You talked about the Council of Great City Schools having fuddy-duddy on. Our kids are taking courses from everywhere and then taking it back here. We're saying yes, and then somebody in a school is saying, wait a minute, what did you do? So I feel for the testimony tonight, but presently, right now, I don't know if we change it for college, you're going to have 100 more sessions of people show up, because it'll be unfair to somebody else, or they'll feel inequitable. And that's why I don't know how to do it.
Dr. Bishop, and through the president to Dave, member Dave Donley, in preparation for beginning AMCS, we attended NASEP conference. It's National Association on Concurrent Enrollment Practices, and it represented the Western states. And at that time, that was a topic of discussion, and I would say 80 to 90% of the school districts in that conference follow the same protocol we do, and that they use the same rationale that Dr. Bishop mentioned, and the fact that AP is set up to be that incentive while you're in high school, but in college, you're taking college classes and it backfills what's required in high school. So you could take History 131 and it would count as a full year of U.S. history. And you've taken it in one semester. So there's a lot of benefits there, and students know going into it that the grades you receive in college, because you actually earn you have a college transcript and you have a high school transcript. And so on the high school, it's indicated that the course earned is from a college. So we do the transcripting where it tells the story of where that credit came from, but it is not weighted, and that's pretty much standard practice across the districts that were represented at the conference. Also, we were told that universities do strip it, so the weighted grade, they don't want to see it; they want to see the straight. They
look at strength of schedule. So because of it's been played with so many ways and becoming so sophisticated and so many choices. We could put a group together, but I think that's what they did. That's what they did to come up with you're getting a full credit for a semester. It's higher level. That is the benefit. And I understand at Family Partnership, I think part of the story was that they felt they didn't have access to AP courses, like the alternate. So maybe we can work on that end as well. I am actually glad you brought this up because there really isn't an easy answer. It's very persnickety, and we will have lined up at principals' offices for people. They may not even take college at all, but they're going to ask for high school courses to be removed because once you take 1 5-point, you want to get out of the 4-point scale.
Okay, we're going to move it along, and your.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It's a really good question.
I'm sorry, there was one other question? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
This is just to share, PEAKS testing is going on right now, and that is our educational performance test for the state of Alaska based on the Alaska standards, and it is digital. We have found some little testing glitches with our computers, and it just would be how the desktop or the keyboard was set up in a certain language. It's US, but it had to be a particular one. So we provided those feedback to the state, but other than that, it's been pretty nice. And as you can see, we are almost completed all the testing in the state. This is different than when we had AMP or SBA where we tested these 3 days. This can actually go over about a month period and different grade levels test at different times. That way we can use the equipment because not every student has a computer. Just wanted to share that. We have about 3,500 students per grade level, and we have completed about 57,000 test sessions. The next item is testing as well, and for the board to understand a little bit about the National Assessment on Education Progress. Some feel that we don't necessarily need this anymore because we have assessments such as MAP that actually are normed across the nation with about 20,000. The question that folks have about NAEP is that this sampling. So the sampling in our state is the percentage of our student. It's the same percentage in another state, but states that are a lot larger have very different comparisons. So those are the criticisms in regard to NAEP, but nonetheless I wanted to share. It is an assessment in grades 4 and 8. The federal government comes in and hires people to come into our classrooms. They select 4th grade classrooms in schools from around the state. I am not notified. Basically, they're notified at the school level, and their own testers come in. I would say that our students don't probably take this as like, wow. Nonetheless, I think it does provide us data for which we're compared, and we will hear from our community in the state as well as Anchorage in regard to the NAEP. So I wanted you to know what are the positives about it is they want this national look about how different states are doing so they can look at comparison of students. We do have like an SAT and ACT and what we just mentioned, college board testing. Those actually are ubiquitous in the nation, but not every student has access, and the sample set might be different. It might be for kids who are already interested in going to college. So those are some of the reasons why they have this. Alaska started taking part in NAEP in 2003, and it is tied to federal money. So if you say no to NAEP coming into your state, you say no to our federal funds, which we talked, title is, $14 million right there. So we participate, and I just want to share, this has been in the news lately, so I did want to share in mathematics in grade 4, there's about a difference of 9 points from the mean, and this is where we fall. This is the ordinal numbered list of, so this is the bottom, what is this, 1, 2, 3? Bottom 13. So Alaska is above New Mexico, 230, about the same score, but if you notice, similar to PEAKS results last year, about 1/3 of our kids are on grade level or proficient, and about 2/3 are below proficient or basic level. That's the same indicator, basic level, that we have on PEAKS as well. So these data are similar to PEAKS. We have another grade level as well, and grade 8. In our state, we do move from, we take kids at grade 4 and we move them on the list. By grade 8, our students improve. And at this is also the 13th, so we're 13th there. But if you look at the proficient and basic, about the same amount of percentage stay, about 1/3 to 2/3 of our kids. In reading grade 4, this is, you've heard in the news where they said Alaska needs to focus. You know, Puerto Rico didn't have a score. So we were 14 points from the mean. This is on the reading level of the rigor of the new standards, of Alaska standards or Common Core in our district. So they're testing at a higher level. And this is our conversation. They say, you know, we may not like NAEP. We know it's showing a difference. The board invested in curriculum and instruction, and we're working to build capacity in our primary grades, to build capacity to build up to 4th grade, which is mostly comprehension. Just taking our students where they are and moving them forward. 8th grade reading is right there as well, and it was down 8 points from the mean. But if you notice on all of these, it's about 1/3 to 2/3, and it just demonstrates where other states are. We are not putting our eggs in one basket. We're not saying that this is our this is going to, you know, be where we stay. We're uncomfortable here, but a number doesn't define, you know, ASD. We are making inroads into it, but when you hear about it, we are no excuses, but we're asking ourselves, what is it that we have to do? And I believe there was some testimony tonight in regard to funding education and the difference, and we talked to the counselors and all different aspects of where kids are. It does take counselors, it does take principals, it does take teachers, it does take tutors, and the investment in Alaska schools is very different. And we've been taking away over time, and some of the rhetoric has been, you're not doing enough with the most amount of money. And so we did share, education in Alaska is expensive, and I don't make an apology about that. We are one of the top states for revenue that is put in, but so are we one of the top states to build a road. So are we one of the top states for healthcare. It costs more money to drill oil here. It costs more money to go see a movie here. So Alaska is on a different scale. So when we just look at a number that's invested, that number can carry you further in different places. And it's not all about money. It is about our focus. It is about what we want for our kids. What I take from these is that there's a difference. And if we're unhappy with the difference, we really work together with our whole team and move forward. And so I didn't want the board, I am sure, will be in social circles, you'll be in professional circles, you'll be in political circles, and comments will be made on this, and we accept the challenge, and you know, there's going to be money spent on Alaska schools, and I want to compete for that money and provide outcomes for kids that they care about.
I have a quick question. I read that there was 2,000 students statewide that took this test. Approximately how many of those 2,000 were from the Anchorage School District?
Madam President, it would be the exact same ratio that ASD makes up in students, so about 35% to 40% of the students in the state would be from ASD. So they take the percentage of students around in different districts.
So a very low number compared to our 47,300 students. What, 400 students?
Mm-hmm. Correct, but I mean, that's true, but if you look at peaks, which is only ASD students, the differences weren't much. Okay. And so we, you know, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to, I don't want to make an excuse. Right. We see what it is, but I don't put, and I've shared with principals and teachers that my weight is a number when I get up in the morning and stand on a scale, but it's not going to define me as I move through my day. It's just a number. And I'm going to work on it, though. And I want to get, you know, I want to set a goal and get to where I want to be, but that's not going to define the person I am, nor my life, you know, how I'm going to be every day and my disposition. And what we do know is that we get kids in and we do move them. We see that. It's evidenced in these assessments. But it is our reality. And the fact is that this is the measuring stick that others will measure us on. That's why we can't forget about it. We can be upset with it. We can say this doesn't really mean anything for us. Our kids don't even, they're not serious when these people swoop in and take this test. And we can get that, but then there's a difference between us and other people that probably don't like
the last question I've had, because this is a concern that's been brought to me, is I was told that NAEP they randomly select schools, but that they randomly select the same schools every year in the Anchorage School District. So I question the random
I don't
selection.
think so. I polled principals, and they were very different. They had it years past.
So that's not accurate then.
But there's
Mr. Holleman.
Yes, I just wanted to chime in. I've spent a lot more time looking at the scores lately than I ever did when I was in the classroom, partly because it's not a score that every student comes to you with, so it's not, and you can't look at it individually, so it's not informative. But the way it's often portrayed is that we are at the bottom or very near the bottom, and it's done in a way that suggests that it's a long, 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 long way to the top, that we're way down there. And in fact, it's much more like a group of runners in a track meet that are very much bunched together. We're not that far from the high-performing states. We are behind them, but we're not way behind them. It's a significant number, and I'm not trying to minimize it by any means at all. But it's often suggested that like somebody's at 100% and we're at 5% or something really dramatic. But the top states are hitting around 50, in the high 40s, and we're in the low 30s. So all the states are, for the most part, kind of bunched to the middle, and have a lot of kids that don't ever reach proficient on this. It matters, as you say, we need to look at it, we need to monitor it, we need to work on it, but it is being portrayed in the public as something much more devastating than it actually is. And if we're going to devote the kind of energy we do to remedial classes and trying to work on this number, we need to understand what it really means. And it's much more complicated than what a lot of people are giving it due for, I think.
Okay. Thank you. On those same lines, there was an objective after hearing testimony and just opinions and sharing of information at the beginning of the year in regard to testing. And so Jenny Knutson and a team formed a district team of representatives of AEA, APA, so teachers, administrators, and district staff, including curriculum instruction, student services, and IT, to complete an assessment inventory for all state-regulated and district-required assessments. So that would be PEAKS, Access 2.0, the developmental profile, NAEP, Ames Web, just to look at anything outside of, I teach 8th grade math and I'm going to have a chapter test. We didn't look at those. So anything that the teacher directed was not part of this. But the team's goal, the 15-member steering committee, was had regular meetings over the last 3 to 4 months, and their goal was to just say, how much are kids spending on testing and what can we change? They took the number of school years, timed it by however many hours per day kids were in school, and found the hours spent on testing time. And the blue colors, the cold colors, are the district assessments that are asked to be done. Ames Web in certain grade levels, you can see K1, 2, MAP, growth, as well as school climate and connectedness. Those are the ones that we ask schools to do. The state assessments are the alternate assessment, the ELL assessment, and then PEAKS. Not all students, this is just a picture of a typical student. We also have one for an ELL student and one for a special education student that might be on the alternative assessment, to take a look at how much time is spent student-wise on assessments. This isn't taking into account the prep that we do, to get the test out and things like that, but it's how long are the assessments that kids are taking that are required outside of classrooms, teachers' decision-making. And so we're calculating, we want to share that across this group. That is their goal, to kind of cascade that out. And then the next part would be to look at classroom assessments. What are we using at classroom level? What are teachers deciding at their level to add to this? Just so that we could, when we hear we test too much or we do this, what does that look like? To this end, there are a group of superintendents that, I don't know if the commissioner's gone, but we are having a meeting with him in 2 weeks to charge him. We know that Nebraska is presently on a pilot using MAP as their statewide assessment. So the kids are they're taking it in the fall and the spring, and they added some questions that are very criterion referenced to be sure that there's an average met, because MAP changes according to what a kid's level is, and what a state assessment does is say, you're a child in 3rd grade, you should know this. MAPS just says, what do you know? And it doesn't matter by grade level. They've combined a little bit of those, so the kids get on MAP, they don't even know the difference, and then there's a state score. The federal regulation is that everyone has to take the same test, but we are trying to see how, and maybe challenge him to take a look at what Nebraska's doing so that we could eliminate a test in Alaska. 37 school districts and 80% of kids in Alaska, 80% of all students in Alaska already do MAP. So that would really impact a lot of kids. And so just want to let you know that we're chalking up that discussion to move forward in light of this, and knowing the amount of testing, though, is 1.17% of time on these tests that are present for a typical student. Again, that's outside of classroom assessments, which are the most important ones if you talk to kids, because they want to make good grades. We already heard testimony on that. So they want to pay attention to those.
Ms. Marsett.
So I have a question about the new English language learning, because I've talked to teachers and they say these are assessments they have to give, that they're mandated to give for this program by the district. So it's not like just a chapter test or something that they've initiated. It's something that they are told to do for the assessments for this type of curriculum in this particular. So we didn't add that in.
No, we didn't do any curriculum-based assessments that are in there now.
But what I'm hearing from you is that these are what you're measuring are those things that we're requiring the teacher to do, not that the teacher is doing on their own. And so in our English language curriculum, what I've heard from teachers is the curriculum says, yes, you will do this. It's not something they're initiating, but that they are told to do this per the program.
And they are to look at our assessments and move forward the exit tickets to say, I taught, what do kids know? I taught, what do kids know? So they are. We're implementing a curriculum in K2 that we hope has high fidelity and integrity. So, but those aren't here. We also ask teachers, we have to have a final. You will have a final in your class unless a kid made this much. So there's lots of ones that we do, but that's the next section of that they're going to study in this process.
Yes.
I got two questions. The first one, my eyes are drawn to the asterisk, and it says how much time. I don't see where my eyes are supposed to go. Is that supposed to go?
You know, this is actually going to be on our website, and it has that'll all be answered. I just took a snapshot of the website, and it'll let you know how much time do students spend, and that is asterisk. I think it's on describing the type of assessments right now that we have listed, but I'll have to look. But it's actually about 4 or 5 different sections of graphs about students who take different assessments.
Okay. And my second question was, is 6.5 hours per school day the right number to use when we know that at least an hour of that is spent with lunch and recess and time outside of a teacher-student setting? Or should we drop that down to be more closely representative of classroom time?
Right, and we could say how much time is in testing, how much time is in lunch, how much time is in math. We could do that for every activity that a kid does. We could break it down that way. Yeah, we could certainly do that. But this group is a working group, just so you know, a representative of teachers, principals, and folks from curriculum and IT that are answering the question and taking a look at this.
Appreciate it.
And ensuring that students learn, these are the questions from professional learning communities, and ASD has read before, and it leads schools forward. The first one is, what do we want each student to learn? And generally that is set out not only by teachers, but also there's higher beings, if you will. We have district curriculum and state curriculum. So we pay attention to more than just our classroom, to your point, Starr, about what do I want to teach and what do my kid need to learn. Really, therein lies the differences in having a standards base and having academic freedom, because we technically don't. Our whole system is set up on standards from someone else. So what do we want each student to learn? How will we know if they learned it? Usually assessments, tests, know whether you're teaching that 8th grade math class or whether it's a standard-based assessment. How will we respond when a student experiences difficulty in learning? That is, how is our system set up to support kids? Because we've shared before where teachers have kids. We shared a 4th grade, remember, with 2 kids at the kindergarten level and 2 kids at the 8th grade level in the same class, just by random to go in there. So how is our system set up to support teachers with all those different levels when we need to guarantee that the kids that are coming in high still get a year, they don't just flatten out, and the kids who are coming in that need to make up some academic skills, how can we speed that up? How can we really intensify that? And then a bigger question is, how will we respond when a student excels in learning? When they already know something we want to teach, what do we do? And that's really part of that MTSS as well, that kids have advancement opportunities. And we've heard some tonight that a lot of times when the crunch happens with funding, we heard we're making AP classes more kids, and so there'll be fewer AP slots because we might need general history slots. I don't know, but each school defines that at their school level based on their students' needs and their students' wishes for their schedule. So they're making forced choices. We heard Mr. Barra say, we had additional courses that were even electives that went away. And it was most likely either a staff left or students, there was more interest in something else. So a lot of high school schedules are based off of what do kids need and want, as well as what are our expertise in our building. So they change. And high schools such as Eagle River that are small struggle the most. Small middle schools, small high schools have less flexibility. They have, when you have more staffing, you have more people with different certifications, experiences, things like that, that they could offer more courses. So how we respond when a student already knows what we want to teach is just a question, just as equal as what do we do when they don't know. So my last report is that we are in a 24-hour rule in Juneau. So the 90th day would have been yesterday, and the 24-hour rule just means that they don't need to have much public notice, just 24 hours, and sometimes not even 24 hours. So if they decided to hear something tomorrow and they announced it at 5 o'clock today, it doesn't have to wait till 5 o'clock tomorrow. It could be held earlier in the day. So it just means that a day notice, whereby their general rules are that they read it in, they allow for public testimony, and move forward. So we are now in 24-hour rule. And as you know from the news over the weekend, there's a difference in the House money put on the table as well as the Senate money. The BSA increase was put in House Bill 339, and the House floor really had a grand debate on that, and it did pass. It looks for a $100 increase to the base student allocation. I believe it's presently $59.30, so it would increase by $100, and of course, then that BSA gets run into our average daily membership through the formula, and at the end, the BSA times that number is the state funding. So the state funding, that looks to be an addition of $7.4 million from the state if it holds, with an additional $1.7 million locally. If we missed the established tax rate, then that 1.7 wouldn't necessarily come to fruition because the state contribution has to be above the basic need, but below how much they can give us. So if the money that the state gives us at a certain level and our borough or our assembly already gave us that much, if this rises, they can't go above that unless it's noticed. So they would have to get it from taxpayers, but they can only give 100% of allowable, and they've already done that. So whenever the base moves, our local will move with that base, unless they choose to just lowball it at some time.
Ms. Marsett? I'm sorry, Plunkett.
If the Assembly has already approved our budget and has already set the mill rate, I think we're out of luck.
Well, there is some wiggle room in regard to that mill rate.
For at
because the
least half
mill
of the
rate
year.
is not 2.65. Right. There is some adjustment that could be made. So it might not be 1.7, but I know Jim is in constant contact, letting them know, hey, if you could help us and still want to give us 100% of allowable. They could just keep the amount of money and not have it be a percentage of the allowable, but they've been very, very supportive. Local government is highly supportive of ASD schools. But this funding would be for FY19, which is fiscal year 19, which is next school year. The total would be $9.1 million. On the Senate side, what they did was take House Bill 287, which is forward funding, and they created their school funding in that bill. So they took HB 287 and created a committee substitute, and they voted for a one-time increase of $30 million. So the Senate is also putting money on the table. It would be outside of the BSA, appropriated by the AADM, which means they'd run it through the formula, and it would result in about 117 per student or per ADM, which would go to AADM, so that larger school districts would get more, or smaller school district would get more amount of money, if you will. Again, remember our formula has those 6 pieces. They would run it through the formula. But it would result in the following, a little difference. The total would be 10.7, so it is a greater amount. And at that greater amount, we could take more locally if possible and ask for more locally. But the funding is actually set for FY20. And we do know that there's a disagreement on the safeguards put it into the permanent fund spending, and it's really held up in regard to that. But the good news is that both sides, Senate and House, put money. And if we were at this section last year, the House kept us the same, and the House was flat, and the Senate was 5% reduction when we went into conference committee. So we feel kind of a little bit in a better spot, but we know the difference between one side, one-time money, it'll come one time, and it wouldn't, next year we'll be at the same place requesting, and then the increase in the BSA, that is then your new base. There's differences and opinions on those, and that's what is happening in Juneau right now. The biggest things anyway. They still, I did share earlier that the hold harmless passed 20-0 in the Senate and very well in the House. They get that. They're supporting ASD and your work with them. And there is a retire, rehire. It doesn't mean that much. It just offers flexibility to us, so we're not tied to it. Forward funding, again, House bill, they moved it in the House, but in the Senate they changed it just a little bit. They put a little additional provisions in it. So we also have 102, which is hiring of language teachers. So we have a lot of irons in the fire, but it is a very good experience in Juneau right now.
And that concludes your report.
Oh, finally, yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for the daily updates on the progress in Juneau. Okay, we move to our consent agenda. Of course, I cough right now. And
Don't want the student advisory?
I'm sorry, we move to our student advisory board. The order was all out of kilter on my schedule. Thank you.
Okay. So our last student advisory board meeting was held on March 29th, and just to go over what we did, we discussed our Miracle Minute, which was a fundraiser we did here in the district, where we took 1 minute out of the day to try and donate as much as possible within several schools in ASD. And we kind of just went over what worked and what didn't, and how we can improve this event if we were to continue doing it in years to come. We also released our applications for student advisory board representative-elect to the school board. So to get the position I currently hold, you have to first hold a term of an elect term where you learn the ropes basically, and then you actually serve your term. So it's a 2-year position. So we released the applications for that and for president of the student advisory board, and those will be due at the next meeting. Our next meeting is coming up this week on Thursday on the 19th. It's our joint meeting with the MATSU. It's always a ton of fun. We always find ways to build off of each other and just see what the other has been doing for the whole year. It's great for us to just kind of see what's working for them and what's working for us, and helps us kind of fill in the holes in between there. And it helps us start looking forward to next year, as well as we can adopt some of the programs that are working well for them, and they can adopt some of the programs that are working well for us. Also, Ben Post, who is my little student rep-elect. I love him so much. He will be coming up on our May 7th meeting, and so he and I are just going to go over some of the technicalities of transferring his position to my position. I wish him the best of luck. I'm super excited to see how successful he's going to be. He's a ball of energy. I'm super excited.
Great, thank you so much. And board committee reports. We'll start with finance.
We have not met since the last meeting. We're looking forward to meeting May 7th.
Thank you. Ms. Plunkett, governance.
We met on the 11th of April. We will have my last meeting on the 2nd of May, and we're going through the administrative regulations.
Thank you. And communications, Mr. Donley.
Yeah, we were scheduled to meet on the 10th. We had a resolution from discussed earlier in the meeting, or during the work session, from the Council of Great City Schools regarding school safety. That was actually adopted by the Council of Great City Schools in the time in between it being referred to the Communications Committee and the meeting we had. We didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't have a formal meeting, but there were a lot of folks showed up, so we went ahead and had a work session, and about a dozen people from the public attended, and many offered testimony regarding the Council of Great City Schools resolution regarding school safety, and there was a lot of opposition to the portions of the resolution that advocated greater gun controls and expanding gun-free school zones. And there was a lot of support also for the portions of that resolution that sought support for hardening of our schools and for additional counseling and mental health resources.
Thank you very much. Now we move to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items, ASD memorandum number 149, personnel report.
It's been moved and seconded. Members, please vote. And the consent agenda passes 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 161 and authorize the superintendent to accept a grant from the National Security Agent Starr grant program in the amount of $89,967. The project provides Chinese cultural and language enrichment experiences for students attending a variety of different schools and programs throughout Anchorage.
Second. Been moved and seconded. I'll now explain the procedures for agenda item testimony. As you saw, the action item memo is first introduced by the Vice President, and if seconded by another board member, I will open the floor for public testimony. If you've signed up in advance or you indicate you're interested in providing testimony, I'll call you up to the front table to speak. You have 3 minutes to talk, and you'll see a timer on the screen to your left to monitor the time remaining and inform you of when you need to conclude. After all testimony closes, I'll open the floor for board discussion, followed by the student board representative vote, before finally calling for the official vote, and the voting results will be displayed on the screen. So at this point, I'm opening for public testimony on the Starr grant. Seeing none, I'm closing public testimony and opening for board discussion. Closing board discussion. Student advisory member vote.
Yay.
Please vote. And the motion passes unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD memorandum number 162 and authorize the superintendent to accept a continuation grant award from the Alaska Department of Education and Early Development in the amount of $30,000.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is now open. Seeing no one wishing to testify, I'm closing public testimony. Board discussion is open. Closing board discussion. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. And the motion carries 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 165 and adopt the attached resolution in support of Administrative Professionals Day, April 25th, 2018.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is now open. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is open.
I appreciate you, Katy.
Let's just add that if she didn't do her job as well as she does, we'd all be up the creek without a paddle.
And the whole staff, for that matter.
All the staff, all the administrative assistants. Okay, I'm closing board discussion. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. Motion carries 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 166 and adopt the attached resolution supporting National School Nurses Day, which occurs May 9th, 2018.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is open. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is open. Mr. Holleman.
I just want to take a minute and say that in my first years teaching in high school, I came to realize that all these things are about nursing and health aspects, and they absolutely do all of that. But they also are an important channel of communication for a lot of students in that they can go see the nurse, and it's kind of vague what they're doing. It's not the same as going to see a counselor. It's not the same as sitting down with security. A lot of kids go to the nurse to get fed. A lot of kids go to the nurse because they don't have anybody else in their lives to talk to. And so I think a lot of times when we struggle with the funding for it, because a lot of districts do not fund nursing at the level that we do, and it's expensive. They do a tremendous amount for kids that we never recognize formally, as well as wonderful things that we do think about when we think about them.
Ms. Marsett?
And I just have to say I appreciate all the patience that they have, and just speaking from experience, I know Cody's first year in high school as a freshman, he got hurt in basketball, and he refused to get up and walk, so she had to go get the wheelchair and get him and take him to the office, but she was very patient and kind about it.
Thank you. Mr. Donley?
Okay, I have to say something. As the son of an Anchorage school district nurse, I was in our schools before we had nurses, and I was in our schools after we had nurses, and it was really special to have the nurse available to us as students. And so it's a very wonderful thing that we now can have nurses in every school.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Closing board discussion. Our student advisory vote.
Yay.
Board members, please vote. Motion passes unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 140 and authorize the superintendent to award a contract for the Willow Crest Elementary School Best Value HVAC and roof upgrades to Roger Hickle Contracting, Inc. for a total award amount of $7,788,951.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. I'm opening public testimony. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is now open. Closing board discussion. Our student advisory vote.
Yay.
Board members, please vote. Motion carries unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 143 and authorize Family Partnership Charter School to enter into a lease with STG ABC LLC as set forth in the proposed lease.
It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is now open. Public testimony is closed. Board discussion is open. Board discussion is closed. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. Motion carries unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum 145 to name the House One Lounge at Chugiak High School the Philip Birch Fiddle Friday Faculty Room, say that fast, in honor of Philip Birch.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is now open. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is now open. I'll just add we've had some very persuasive testimony in our last 2 meetings, and I believe that individuals in our audience again tonight. And I, for one, am going to be supporting this this memorandum. Board discussion is closed. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Board members, please vote. Motion carries unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 146 and pass a revision to the Board Policy 5131.42, Threats of Violence.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is open. I'm closing public testimony. Board discussion is now open. Closing board discussion. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. This motion also passes unanimously, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 142 and authorize the Winterberry Charter School to enter into multiple lease amendments to facilitate their building expansion project as proposed in the attachments A, B, C, and D.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is open. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is open. Board discussion is closed. Student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. Motion carries, 7 yeas, 0 nay.
I move to approve ASD Memorandum Number 167, the termination of the contract and charter for Bettye Cooperative Charter School, and assume the school and all components as an Anchorage School District statewide funded school.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public testimony is open. Closing public testimony. Board discussion is now open. Ms. Marsett.
I'm very excited about this. I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunity to our students now that don't have this opportunity, and will expand some of the offerings that we have as far as alternative learning.
I have a question for the superintendent. I'm a little confused, though, if they're becoming an ASD program and not a charter program, why would they still continue with an APC, which in other charter schools acts as a mini school board?
Correct. Madam President, actually not an APC, so it really is to the founders of the program as well as the present APC boards to provide some it's an advisory board for academics, how they want to see the building grow, or the program rather, if they don't even have a building. So the program grow, where are the avenues for which the students they want to serve. Presently, they have a very strong blended model in elementary school where families participate, they come partially back. One of the things I had already mentioned is they have their high school program is very strong in continuing to service special needs students, so they wanted to ensure that. Just to be able to have input into what the academics look like, because that's how charter schools start. They start with an innovative idea and they build from that, and then they can make decisions on that. We didn't want to exclude that, and the people that are already in the program, their staffing already there. We wanted to continue to build that with parents, really just to ensure a good partnership. So we have some other models where it's not an APC, it's not where it's really about an academic advisory council on how do we want this program to look. It's more programmatic than it is in all governance systems.
So could you equate it to one of the advisory groups for the different classes that are offered at King Career Center, soon to be King Tech High?
Yes, it's like an advisory group, yes, for a different pathway. It could be an advisory group for parents that really gather around an immersion program. Some of them have very strong parent groups there. So really partnership, because we want to know, it already started with innovation in deciding how they want to serve kids and who their real audience is, because I think our 3 different homeschool charters presently really serve a different niche of the community and a need. And so we wanted to basically stay in the lane that Bettye started and be able to have influence on that.
And Ms. Snelling?
Do we need deeds approval to do this? And if so, or
prior?
If
we worked out all the details because we didn't know. So we've been in discussions for a couple of months, and Deed said absolutely it can happen. All your board needs to do is say that they approve it.
And is this intended to be changed over for this following upcoming
Correct.
school year? Okay.
Correct. And basically what we would have, instead of the uncertainty of student population, we can be able to build a budget around more of a certainty and hire staff and then continue moving forward, so we're not in the flux as it's been.
Ms. Plunkett?
I view this as any of our alternative school programs that you have, where you have a parent committee that really is helping to move that school forward, and it sounds like that's really what it is, from my 2 cents.
Madam President, presently there are staff members as well as parents. I'm not sure if there's any students on the board right now at Bettye, but it's a combination of employees and parents that work now to set the program. So we just wanted to continue that in that same fashion, so they would have an academic advisory council.
And one other question I have is, besides removing the word charter from their name, is there any anticipated name change?
Madam President, that would be determined at that academic advisory council with their new team and the team that's at the school. So certainly can. Moving into next year, unless there was a recommendation, we'd have to bring that back to the board. But Bettye moving forward is what the name is until there's a further recommendation by the people. We didn't know, we found out how to do it, but we didn't know how the board felt about creating another innovative program, really building upon one already and moving that. So we didn't really promise anything and discuss things that were moving into the future until we understood that we had the board support.
Okay, thank you. Any other board discussion? Closing board discussion, student advisory vote.
Yay.
Please vote. Motion carries 7 yeas, 0 nay. We now move to the non-action item portion of our agenda. Are there any items board members wish to pull for discussion? Ms. Marsett.
I'd like to pull item 1.
Anything else? Okay, then we're pulling ASD Memorandum 155. Ms. Marsett.
On these, thank you, because this is kind of the transparency that we've been looking for as far as talking about the different projects and where it's going. And I think I'm correct in saying that we have to get approval before we can move that money?
Through the president, I'm going to ask Krista Phillips to come up to talk about it because I believe Tom Roth is not with us, but Krista's here. And actually, the interesting thing is DEED, many school districts have had the same thing. So DEED lightened up on how they interpreted regulations, which allowed this money to come our way. So that, because we had also suggested some changes, and it was the interpretation at DEED altered a little bit, so maybe Krista could touch on that, which allowed that. So DEED's approval is already there. I think it's the board's approval now to say, yes, move forward or not.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, that's correct. First of all, my name is Krista Phillips. I'm the supervisor of planning and design with capital planning and construction. And so, as Dr. Bishop alluded, DEED has changed the rules in that we are able to receive and redirect monies from projects that have closed out. And so the process that we'll go through is to close out projects of the years that are noted in the board memo, the bond years. And so we'll take that to DEED and close those out, and then we will seek approval for specific projects, new projects that we'd like to pursue, and we'll go through the same process with them that we would have for any normal project.
And I'd also like to add, I know there's a further up question, that the approval and bonding went already through. What we've done is to, board approval as far as deed-wise has already been given. What we would like is just that we planned for those items in safety and ADA, which we always need, and so we prioritize those. Actually, Krista's group did, and so we wanted to just be transparent with the board about this is how we prioritize them. Some of them are to do with the safety that we talked about, but really without specific input in ADA, we're going to get behind. And so it was really, we kind of have a just-in-time ADA policy where when kids transfer schools, as they matriculate, we like to take care of the schools and retrofit them and have them prepared for our students. So this was the list. It isn't new. It's always been on our list of what we need. It's just that they prioritized it for these additional monies because they're not very controversial. It's not building something onto a house or a school. It's, you know, needs that would be major maintenance.
Actually, that was my next question. So, was just how we came up with this list. So I appreciate that.
Maybe you can go into further. Sure, I can expound on that. So, as Dr. Bishop said, these are projects that have been identified for quite some time, and so in thinking about the guidance that the board has given us in terms of what we're proposing as far as projects, this was a nice surprise to have this much money come forward as an opportunity, and so. We have been in conversation for, well, since I've been at ASD for 15 months, 16 months now, really looking for an opportunity to particularly fund the Stellar project and the Bartlett project, which is a fire alarm replacement and intercom. So those two you see on the list, we feel that those are the highest priority at this point, and so we're hopeful that those will move forward. The district-wide secure vestibule and school admin area reconfigurations. Now, this is something that was looked at, I think, as early as 2015, sort of a focused exercise within capital planning and construction to determine which elementary schools, this work would focus only on elementary schools right now, which of those schools do not have what we consider to be secure vestibule and entry sequencing. And so that makes up, just so you know, magnitude, about over $25 million worth of work right there. So there's plenty of work in that group alone to focus on. Yet we felt, it will be our opportunity to share with you what we feel perhaps going into these as sub-priorities where we see, the highest needs being, and then you all can take a look at that. And then, of course, as Dr. Bishop mentioned, there's two ADA needs here that we're looking to fill, and one is at Rush and Jack, and one is at Clark Middle School, and that's for emergency notification improvements for those schools. And then the potential to complete analog to IP cameras also is another one we put up there for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Donley?
Yeah, I know that the IP is somehow a digital camera system that's interfaced with law enforcement. What does IP actually stand for?
Internet Protocol?
Internet Protocol, okay. I
I just wanted to mention that I want to advocate that on our legislative agenda next year, we consider possibly supporting a statewide general obligation bond for school safety improvements. I think school districts all over the state would join us in advocating for something like that and put it out to the voters, a proposal to allow the voters to say yes or no, and to help deal with some of these really important needs that are on this list here too.
Can you clarify, in a state bond, who's paying that?
Well, it's a general obligation bond against the Treasury of the state.
Okay.
That's why it's called general obligation.
Okay.
They're done rather infrequently in our state,
Right.
but they're very common in other states. Typically, they're done when something rises to a really important need that's a statewide perspective. You don't do general obligation bonds for just a road project in one community. You do it for something that the whole state cares about.
Thank you for the clarification. Okay, anything else members want to pull? Okay, we're going to move on to future items, future business. Are there any items board members would like for consideration to put on future agendas? Seeing none, we move to our second opportunity for public testimony on non-agenda and non-action items. Is there anyone in the public wishing to testify? Yes. Ms. Ballarud, you may come forward.
As if I haven't taken enough of your time already. Sarah Lane had to go home early, but she wanted me to extend an invite. Eagle River High School will be hosting our first Out of the Darkness campus walk this coming Saturday. We'd love to see school board members there. There's still time to register early, or if you just decide last minute you want to pop in, registration is at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's a 5K walk. It starts at 10. I don't believe there's any racing aspect to it. Okay, good. It's being supported through our You Are Not Alone Club, as well as our student government and some other organizations. And the goal of the walk is to draw awareness to suicide prevention as well as mental health support. There's been no harder day in my career than the day after you've lost a student to suicide. So I am wholeheartedly supporting this, and we'd love to see school board members there, as well as any members of the community. So thank you. You can register at AFSP / she'll send you that. She'll send you that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to testify? Closing public testimony, opening up for school board and administration comments and communications. Well, I have a couple things. I want to speak about a dinner that myself and Dr. Wood, who's our Director of Fine Arts, attended on Saturday evening. This was our statewide PTA reflection celebration. And they've been doing this for almost 50 years, so I was a little remiss that I hadn't heard of it previously to this invitation. But they recognize student achievement in a number of categories, including dance choreography, film production, literature, music composition, photography, and visual arts. And so we were able to see the state winners and those who've been selected to have their work go to the national level. It was the theme of it was Within Reach this year, and it was a wonderful celebration, statewide celebration. So there were students there not only from our district but from districts around Alaska.
And Tam, I'm just going to add to that. I went to it the last 2 years, so I know where you were.
Okay, I'd never been invited previously, so I didn't know. I mean, I knew PTA exists on a statewide level, but I'd never been invited to the dinner. And then finally, a number of us were quite pleased at to be invited to the gifted mentorship reception. And once again, I was floored at the areas and the research projects of our students with the guided mentorship of many professionals in our community. So again, a shout out to our broader community for your fabulous support of our students and our schools. And if there's somebody watching who's never heard of gifted mentorship and would be interested in participating, we can hook you up. So thank you so much for that support. Any other board members? Mr. Holleman.
Friday I was at a public rally for education, putting the pressure appropriately where it needs to be, and that's on general funding for education. I would urge other board members to be alert to opportunities to join what I think was probably about 80% staff members, teachers that turned out, and also a good quantity of citizens that see the need. Also, I was going to mention Wednesday morning at KCC, bright and early. I don't know why all these things start at 9 o'clock in the morning, but there's coffee with a cop at the new King Tech, and I've gone to a couple of these. It is kind of a weird thing to think about in that you don't really know exactly what you're going to talk about, but you can simply get a cup of coffee and walk up to an officer and go, so can you tell me a little bit about what you do? And what I didn't see coming is officers do very specialized things. Most of them have a particular role as well as just the more general law enforcement responsibilities. And you learn a lot about Anchorage. You learn a lot about what some of our issues are, and it never fails to leave me more impressed with the people that have our backs in terms of keeping us safe. So if you have time and you want to practice getting up and getting somewhere in time for the walk on Saturday, 9:30 for a cup of coffee at KCC would be a good warm-up activity.
If you really want an eye-opener on the life of an APD officer, enroll in a juvenile justice class and do a Friday night ride-along. That was a life experience.
Do the swing shift.
Yes. Ms. Marsett.
So just one more thing, and I think you participated in this too, Tam, and that's that, and I know I'm not going to say the name of the program, but where we were on the panel for the 5th and 6th graders for the UAA
college readiness.
College readiness, right. That was very interesting. I probably played a different role in that, and that, you know, I wanted to impart on them how just difficult it is. You know, you say now you want to go, but and the things that you have to do, but just being realistic in what you have to do to get there. So great class. This program is not just about the panelists coming in, but the kids are actually going and see what they thought about it at the end.
Dr. Bishop.
Yes, Madam President, I would like to just announce I went to a very, you know, white knuckle event. It was, everybody was anxiously and excited to see the Geography Bee in Alaska was held, and an Ocean View student, 6th grader, won the event in about an 8-round playoff with another student. And so it was pretty exciting, and he'll be going to Washington, D.C. soon to participate.
Fabulous. And Ms. Plunkett.
Just real briefly, because I realized our next meeting is, well, it's my last meeting, which will be very bittersweet and sad, but I'm looking forward to the new board doing lots of good action. I will be attending my last Sonic Boom as a board member on May 3rd. And if any of you haven't been, even from members of the public, even if you don't have students in there, it is so awesome to watch our 6th graders that have started out, didn't really know much about instruments, and produce a fabulous concert. And I like to go the first hour before it starts, because then you get to see them practice. So it's kind of like a dress rehearsal. You see the dress rehearsal, and then you see the fantastic performance that they give. It's truly awesome. So May 3rd at, I forgot where it is. It's at the Sullivan. Yes, the Sullivan. So, but and it usually starts at 7:30, but I'm sure it'll be noticed out there, but it's an awesome program.
And last reminder for the board, next Wednesday, the 25th of April, is the annual School Business Partnership Spirit of Tomorrow Awards Luncheon at the Deena. If you have not made your reservation for one of the seats that the board has, please, if you cannot go, please let Katy know so that we can have those seats filled by other members of the staff. But it's a fabulous event. Yes?
We do have our board leadership too, our first board leadership program.
Would you like to announce that, since as Vice President you'll be leading that?
Thank you. Monday, April 23rd, yeah, we'll be having our first board leadership training class, whatever you want to call it, but
2.0. Yep.
Yeah, but yeah, our second time around.
So if there's anyone in the community who's interested potentially in serving on the board or learning more about Anchorage School District operations, this is your opportunity to sign up to be part of the Board Leadership Academy 2.0. It's our second year of doing this, and Ms. Grant is the one you contact to get signed up. It's on the website. Thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
It's been moved and seconded. Seeing no dissension, we are adjourned.